And as I said, what I like to do is to go over a few questions in your quizzes, and we will discuss the mistakes, I'm trying now to fix so you don't see the answer, you see only the question. Just 1 second. Okay, so let me share my screen first with you. And what I like you is to answer this particular question. Okay, so this is, for instance, one of the questions in the quiz, and just try to answer which is a possible primary key in the chart. And press enter. Let me first write the question number. Okay, question 1. So put your best in the chat and we'll discuss them in a moment. So press enter if you have something. We'll stop and discuss the questions. I got very interesting answers. One of them is date of birth. Now, for an attribute to be a primary key needs to be unique and not required. Now, date of birth is required. All employees will have a date of birth, so this is required. But let's see if it's unique. It's not unique because you can have 2 employees with the same date of birth. So date of birth is not good from this perspective. The second option that I got is phone. And if you are thinking about a mobile phone, yes, that will be a good one. But here is not precise, is not specified what kind of phone number an employee will register. So you don't, you know, some employees don't like to give their phone, mobile phone numbers to the company because then they get messages wherever. So sometimes they give the home phone number, and there are still people who have both a mobile phone number and a home phone number. And the home phone number is not unique because it's a required one. Yes, again, phone will be required because we'll have everybody must have at least one phone at this time. But is it unique? And if it's a home phone number, you can have both spouses to work at the same company, and basically they'll give the same home phone number as the contact phone, and then it will not be unique. So there is a possibility to not be unique, and it's a trivial one, so it's not an extraordinary one, it's like a trivial possibility. So again, phone will not easily satisfy this requirement. So again, I asked you to select the best from date of birth and phone. Phone is better. So up to now, phone is better. Let's see. Let's try a new round and try to think if you see any other attributes that might be better than phone. Okay, yes, email is better because generally people have a personal email. Rarely you will have a family email. And even if you have a family email, in addition, everybody will have a personal email. Moreover, a company often is giving an email address to the employees to be sure that all the correspondence with the company will go through that email address. So email, it seems to be much better than the phone because it's much more likely, if not almost sure, that is unique. So if I will pick one of these with no other kind of information, if I need to pick one of these, I will pick email. And that's the correct answer. And again, you need to select the best answer. I'm not saying that phone is not like email possible. Yes, it's possible if we put some restriction related to it, but the best answer from this attribute is email. So let's go to the next question. So let me close this question 1. And we'll go to question 2 now. And again, I will try to discuss a few things that don't went well. So this is somehow similar, but it's good to discuss it to see the comparison. So given this entity, employee from these attributes, which will be a good possible primary key. And again, it's not the primary key that it's just from these attributes or combination of attributes, which is a good solution. And as we discussed, here are just a few changes. So look at the changes and fast give me an answer. So press enter, whatever you have up to now, it will be good. Okay, so let's discuss the responses received. Again, what we lost email, so email is no longer there, we cannot put it. We got social security number instead of email. Now, the question is, we know that social security number is not a good primary key for security reasons. However, technically, it satisfies the requirements for a primary key. So because it's required to work, to be an employee, you need to have a social security, and sure, if you work legally. Now it's required, and also it's unique. So you cannot have two employees with the same social security. It will be a fraud indication if you find something like that. So being required and unique, it's technically a good primary key. Why we don't put social security as a primary key, and we always try to avoid, we prefer to create a surrogate key instead of social security, is for security reasons. Because if you make it primary key, then we share it with all the other entities that need these particular a reference to this particular entity. So, and you don't want the sharing of the social security number. So because of that, we don't use it for security reasons, we don't use it as a primary key. But from these attributes, it's a possible primary key, and sure, it's the best in the list of attributes that is provided. So I will close now the question 2, and we'll move to question 3. Just 1 second to put on the screen question 3. Okay, just one second. I look for picking a good continuation. And I need to do some kind of computations here. Okay, so okay, now this is a good one. So so let's look at this question. And here we have two tables. We have a department table, we have an instructor table, and sure, it's a relationship between them that is represented. You see, we have a foreign key from from instructor to department. So each instructor is hired in a given department. And what we need to do is to finish SQL command that for the this partially done command that asks us to show a list of full names of for the instructors having the first name John together with the department names. So basically what we want here is to be sure that we add in the condition clause what is needed to show what the question is asking us. So again, something to be careful about here, you see that you have the semicolon pointed in the in the provided template. So you need to complete without the semicolon. And I know this was a pretty big issue for some of you, but if you look at what you are asked to do, it's pretty clear if you need to put the semicolon or not. So here you need to put everything, but not the semicolon. But what is missing to have a correct question? So we already got an answer, and so give me what you have. Give me what you have up to now. And both all answers that I receive are good. It's seems like easier than you need to. What is missing here is to check that the first name is John. And because the first name appeared just in one of the tables, we can just use the attribute without any prefix or suffix. So the condition will be first name equal John. And John, it's a string, so we need to put between quotes. So be sure that you have the quotes. Now, doesn't matter if you put spaces before John, between equal. These are ignored by the answer. So don't worry if you have such spaces or not. Sure, you need to have a space between and first name. If you don't put there a space, it will be a problem. But other than that, there is no other check. So really good on this one. Let's go to the next one. And this will be query 4. And again, it's filling the blanks type of query. So So let's look what we need to do. Here we have one table department, and we want to construct a new table for instructor. And basically what we are asked to do is just to add the specification for a new middle name. So it's not to just to put something related to the middle name. And again, I give these examples because I got pretty high number of errors on them. So that's why I pick some of the questions. I will not ask all the questions, but only some of them, and I want to be sure that everybody got it right. Okay, so give me what you have. I will close now question 4. Yeah, so you got it right. So it's middle name, variable character of 35. This is what we have. It must not have any other constraint. It's not required, so we don't put not null, and it's not unique. Several persons may have the same middle name, so you don't put unique. So it's just middle name with a domain varchar of 35. Now, let's move on. And the next one. We have 2 tables, and here it's you need to be careful because here you don't have anything at the end. So here, because we don't have if this is the end of the statement, we need to be sure to put semicolon. So we don't have a semicolon in the text that in the pattern that is provided. So if we close the question, because we are asked to finish the SQL command, so we need to put everything that is needed to finish it, then we need to put also the semicolon. So just looking carefully at the pattern that you have, you easily find if you have or not. And let me put query 5 here, so you can start answering. And what we need to do is need to show a list of the first, middle, and last name for all instructors and their department names. So we need to find out how we can specify the relationship between the 2 tables. Okay, give me what you have. Okay, so very good. So we need to put where statement here. We'll have where statement, and we need to put department ID equals ID. So we need to put this information. It's true that in the video nobody will see it, and okay. So maybe what I will do will be to, if I can write here, no, I cannot write there. So what I will do, I will write from now on the answer on the whiteboard. I don't see any other way to do it easily. So you will have also the answer. And see if I have the feedback. No, I don't have the feedback shown. The feedback will generally show you the correct answer, one of the correct answers. Very good. So we did this. So let's go to the next. Question. Okay, so in this question, you are asked to specify column name that is needed, but you need to specify also the name of the column. So query 6. And what I will do, I will use a whiteboard to write but this will not be easy. Oh, I will write it here. You'll be able to see it. Okay, so give me what you have. So basically what you need to specify here is just the department name. And in our specification, the department name is D name. So we'll put D name. And we'll also need to specify an alias for it. So we'll have an alias as, and the alias that we want to use in this case is department. So it's important to use the right name. So it's department. I was looking to see if it's capitalized or not, and we don't need to put anything right now because it's the last element in the list, so we don't need to continue the list with anything else. And again, this was so let's look at the next one. And this was many people got it wrong. So let's look at this one. It's either or, so it's true or false. You need to tell if it's true or not. So it's the answer, true or false. You can put TF or true, false. It's up to you how you answer, but you need to read carefully the question first. So you need to say if it's true or not what the statement, the final statement is saying. Okay, let's, I will close here. So let's look at what we are told. So we have two tables, department and employee, in a one-to-many relationship. So a department has many employees, and an employee belongs to one department. That's how the description will suggest. And we have select command. And the select is from both tables. So, but it's putting a condition that the department code, it must be the same with the employee department code. So, which is clearly a foreign key for the department. Here, the description does not give you the foreign keys but it's likely that this is represented. So the question is the query. So the statement is the query will generate all the combinations of the rows in the department with all the rows in the employee table, which means a Cartesian product. Now, this is happening if we have only the first two rows in this query. So if we have select from department employee, so if we have something like this, select start, and we put two tables, even if they have a relationship like here, department and employee. So if we have this query, then this query will generate a Cartesian product. So why it will generate a Cartesian product is because I don't have any condition on the query. So I don't link the two tables. And then what SQL will do will take all the rows in the department, and for each row in the department will link that row with one row from the employment. For the employees. So basically, if I have 10 departments, 20 employees, I will get 200 lines. Department 1, employee 1, Department 1, employee 2, Department 1, employee 3, and so on until I finish all employees. Then I go to Department 2 and take all the employees. So this is generating a Cartesian product. Now, in our query, we have a condition. We link them based on the code. And because we do this link, they will not, I will not get all the combinations. So I will just get the links. So I will get the employees, and for each employee, the department corresponding to that employee. So I will not get all possible combinations. So that's important. So the correct answer here was false. If you don't understand my explanation, tell me in the chat so I can better explain. I'll give you more examples. So I want to be sure that because these are kind of mistakes that were done and some of them are done repeatedly, I would like to be sure that everybody knows the answer, the correct answer. Oops, I think I went too fast. So this is not a difficult one. But some people got it wrong. So let me share this one. So this will be query 8. So true or false again. You need to say true or false for this one. In the whiteboard. Give me what you have. Very good. All of you got it right. It's false. There is no such thing as insert into relationship. So we don't insert into a relationship. To represent a relationship, we insert in tables. So let me go to the next one. Yes. Okay. Now it's mute. So let's see this one. if it's, it will be query 9. So again, true false query, how we implement a relationship in SQL. And I repeat because somebody else joined now, what we do is to go through the frequent mistakes in your test. So with the idea of not doing them again. So I'm going to explain them and this will help you not to make the mistake again. Now, give me what you have. Okay, so this is true. This is how we implement a relationship. We create a table, we use in the create table reference constraint. So reference means foreign key. So we specify the foreign key within the create table command. And this way we represent the relationship. We don't have a command to create a relationship. There is no such command in SQL. How we create the relationship is by representing the foreign key. And foreign key is just an attribute. The thing that makes this foreign key a foreign key is a reference constraint. So once you put the reference constraint on an attribute, it becomes a foreign key, and then it will link the two tables, creating a relationship. And this reference constraint, by default, MySQL is checking it. There are ways in which you may have your MySQL not checking it, and it will allow you to do a messy database, but usually it's checking it, and by default it's checking it. If you see things that is not, let me know, and I'll give you the commands to repair that, to make MySQL to check it. But most of the SQL database will check this reference constraint, will guarantee that if you create instance in one of the entities, will respect the properties of your relationship. So that's why it's important. So, so this was a tricky one. Now let's go to the next one. Oh, this is again, okay. We just answered this. I will not, I will just show it to you. There is no such thing as create relationship. So that's not a good example. And the next one. Okay, this is a little bit more complex. Okay, let's look at this one. So this one is, again, it's a step-by-step construction of a create table. And you have the beginning. Now, next you need to put the first attribute. And sure, you have the ... which means my command will continue. Now, as you can see, I have the comma here, so you don't include the comma. You just put the part of the first attribute, but without including the comma. So this will be query 10. And let's see how I specify the first attribute. I already have an answer. So the table department is already given. Now I'm constructing the table instructor, and you have the specification for the first attribute. Give me what you have. Okay. So you got it right. So we need to put the name of the element, which is code. Then we'll need to put the type. It's a code of 5 characters. I tell you there are 5 characters, so we'll put char of 5. Always doesn't seem to have variable size or something, and being 5, it's small, so I anticipate it's just a predefined code with 5 characters. And we don't need to put any restriction to it, just that it's a primary key. Once we say it's a primary key, then we know that this will be both required and unique. So primary key will impose both these characteristics. So let me see if I open the light. Not much. I see that I can project you the whiteboard, but it will not show it right easily. So let's move to the next question. So this is the next question, and here, sure, you already have the solution to the previous one that I wrote. So you can see it here. Now you are asked to put the next element, the first name of the instructor, which has up to 35 characters. Now, it's important to know that here I don't give you the constraints, but you need to use the common sense constraints that these will have. So sometimes you don't get all the constraints, but if there are some common sense ones, you need to include them. Okay, very good answers. I am happy I just wanted to be sure that this doesn't. The questions are not too hard, and you understand the mechanics before related to them. So now there might be a potential issue related to the name. Some of you put F name, which makes sense. However, we stick usually with the client language. If I say first name, except that the client wants us to make a shorter name for the attribute. If not, it will be better to stick with the full name. So let's put it first name. So I will recommend here, see what I can write here, I think it's more like. So I will recommend to have first name and as a name for the argument. And then, sure, we need to specify the type and the size, which is variable character. We have up to 35 characters, so it's variable character of 35. And then we need to put the constraints. And the constraint here is not null because everybody must have a first name. So we know that we need to put the constraint, not null. So that's the correct answer, and we can move on. Okay, these also for some problems, and we'll discuss now. So here we need to put the starting clause for showing information. So we need to decide what command to use and what we need to show. And also, so this will be query 12. Also, we know that the table clause will follow. Table clause is a from clause. Condition clause is a where clause. So we need to put the beginning of our SQL command that will show a list of rows based on some constraints. So let's see how it will look. And again, don't put semicolon, don't put from or where in your answer, just how you start. That's why I have table clause and condition clause specified there, because those will follow. We need to look at the command and be sure that you do the right answer. Okay, give me what you have. Good answers. Now, I didn't ask for any fancy column names, but if you want to give, you need to give ones that make sense. Usually in these queries, if I don't ask for a fancy name, specifically, don't put a fancy name, because probably it's not checked, so you will need to ask for manual regrading. So put a fancy name only when you are asked for a fancy name. Now, when you solve your implementation assignment, your project, you usually are asked to provide a nice looking table. So there, yes, you can, because it's not checked automatically, it's checked manually. There, I recommend you to put fancy names to your query, so they will look good when somebody reads them. But in these kind of automatically graded exercises, don't put fancy names if you are not asked for. Before we are asked to put a given name, and in that case makes sense. Now, most of the answers are correct, almost all of them. You need to select, so it's when you want to select information, to show information, you use select command, and then you enumerate, separated by comma, all the attributes, like first name, comma, middle name, and so on. So I will not write all the commands, but you can continue. So that was good. And sure, the department name will be the name for the department, not the code of the department, but the name must be shown. Very good answer. Again, you did very good compared with the answers I received. Okay, this was a little bit more difficult, looks like. So let me show it now. So this will be query 13. And this one is asking us to finish this query. You have almost the entire query, but you need to see what is missing. So it's asking us to show a list of full names for all instructors and their department names. For the full names, combine the first and last name separated by space, ignore middle names. Use a hidden instructor for the full name. So you see a lot of special conditions here. Let's see how we solve all of them. So again, be careful to just put what is missing. You have the entire query here, but you need to complete only a part of it. So give me what you have, even if you haven't finished, that's okay. So very good answers. You need to concatenate first name with the last name and to give an alias to this column as instructor, named instructor. So there are a few mistakes in your answer. First of all, when you concatenate, you will use concat function, and sure, you have first name, and then you put comma, and you need to put a space between the quotes. So because I say it's separated by space, you need to be sure here it's a space. If you don't put the space, you will not get the point. So this space is checked in your answer to exist. Other spaces, I don't care if you put spaces before or after comma, those are ignored. But if you don't put a space here inside, you will not get the point, because if you don't put it here, it will not be concatenated, so it will not appear in the result. And then you add the last name. As I said, you don't care about middle name, and just to simplify, sure, you can add middle name if you want. And you need to give an alias for other. If you don't give an alias, this long statement will appear, but you need to give an alias, and the alias will be instructor. And again, you need to use the alias as is specified. You don't need to put comma or something, because if you look in the statement, it is already there. So comma is already there. You just need to put as instructor. Now, this is a little bit more complex, but you got it right. So I'm happy that everybody here seems to have good answers to these questions. And again, this is a review of S2 quiz. Very few of you did work for S3, so but these questions will come back in S3 quiz, in final exam. All of them will come back, so I want to be sure that you know the correct answer. And again, this is an easy one, but I will put it just to so this will be query 14, and it's a true false. So you just need to say this statement is true or not. A joining condition specifies that the foreign key of the child table is equal with the primary key of the parent table. So true or false? So it's an easy answer. Okay, give me what you have. And the answer is clearly true. That's how we create the joining condition. We link the foreign key with the primary key of the reference table, and making them equal will guarantee that will, in the result, will be only the linked rows. If we don't put the joining condition, as I said before, it will be a Cartesian product between the two tables, which we don't like because it's very, it's not useful. It doesn't satisfy the requirement for the relationship. So that's not a problem. So let me move. So I'm also looking at the answers to pick problems that were not easy. So now query 15. So an alias for a table is defined in the from clause using the reserved word as true or false. And the TV. Very good. Give me what you have. So yes, it's true. That's what we do. But you need to be careful because we have aliases for columns, and those are defined in the select clause. Now we have aliases for tables, and those are defined in the from clause. Both of them use as a reserved word, but they define different type of aliases. So we need to be careful how we use each of them. So let me look for the next questions, problems. Okay, so let's look at this question. So this will be query 16. Here. So again, it's true or false. Okay, give me what you have. So indeed, this is false because of a mistake in statement. So if you look, foreign key is telling department code, it's related to the prime, it's foreign key department code, primary key department code, which is not how the syntax for foreign key must look like. So first of all, I don't have a department code. I have a department ID in the temple employee. It's not right. It would be much correct to have department code instead of department ID, but that's what I have. So if I want to use it, I need to put department ID to be correct or to change the name of the attribute in the employee table to department code. But as it's right now, they don't match. Then the name primary key in the foreign key, it's not correct. You need to have references, department code. So it's true that code is a primary key in the department, but the syntax is not correct here. So there are two syntax errors in this statement. So for this reason, the answer is false. But this was tricky. Many people looking very superficially at it say, oh yeah, it's right. Because it's a foreign key, and so you need to look careful at the questions. Some of them are almost correct, but they have here, there are two mistakes. I put two mistakes just to be sure that you see one of them. So, good. But I am happy that all of you got the answers pretty good. This one also was, I will just discuss it. I will not ask you to write the answer. But here you just need to be careful to follow. So what you need to do is to add in the instructor this particular instance. You have a code for the instructor, which is a character of 5. Again, it's a character, needs to be between quotes. And then you have first name, last name. You don't have middle name, you put none. If you don't have middle name, instead of middle name, you have a date of birth, and you need to respect the syntax, the standard SQL syntax, it's year, month, date, so, and it's between quotes, so you need to put those. And the department you receive here is the name of the department, but sure you must not use the name of the department. You need to put in the child table, in the instructor table, you need to put the code. So you will replace computer science, you need to put 101 instead of computer science. I'm not asking you to give it because it's a long expression, but at these type of questions, you just need to carefully map the tables definitions with the data. And if something is missing, then you put, because here I use insert into values without the pattern, so I assume the pattern is the pattern from the create command. So this is a default pattern. So here you need to be very careful how you put such questions. Now, let's move to the next one. And I think we're also picking. So what I am doing, I'm giving you questions in which around half of the students got it wrong, at least, from all the attempts, like half were wrong, around half or more. So these ones I think it's good to discuss, but I'm happy that the group here seems to be very good. So you know the answers. So let's go and discuss now this question. And this one is again a select question. And what you want is to continue with specification. And use, don't use, so use explicit joining. I don't see this specified, so if you, but I'm asking you to put a condition clause. So if you use join on in from, then you don't need a condition clause. So having a condition clause, the only reason for it will be for a joining condition. That's how you can deduct here that you want the joining condition to be in the condition clause and not in the from clause. As we discussed last time, you have both ways to do it. Both of them are correct, but it's good to know what how to identify which one to use. Sometimes I specifically ask you for one of the methods. Mostly if I wanted to use the join, I generally specifically tell you use join on or the join the tables in the from clause, in the table clause. Okay, so let's see, it's easy. We just need to specify them in the table clause. We just need to specify the two tables. Give me what you have. Just press enter. And indeed, the two tables are department and instructor. And doesn't matter in which order you specify them. You can say from department, comma, instructor, or from instructor, comma, department. Both ways will be correct. but we didn't join them in the from clause, we join them in the where clause. Okay, so this one also was pretty high. Okay, when we specify two or more tables in the from clause, the result query will be computed by automatically linking the foreign key of one table with the primary key of the other table. True or false? So this is query 18. Okay, give me what you have. Okay, so it's false because it's not done automatically. As I said before, we need to use a joining condition. So this can be used in the from clause by putting join on. It can be done in the where clause by explicitly linking the two with a joining condition, linking the foreign key with the primary key. Either way, we need to do something. Automatically, it doesn't happen. Automatically, it will generate a Cartesian product. So you need to be very careful to not assume this is done automatically. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm searching for one that okay, let's look at this one. It's an easy one. So this will be query 19. When we define an alias for a table, and we already discussed this one today. So is it true or false? Give me what you have. Okay, so it's false. As we discussed, this needs to be done in the from clause. In the from clause, we define the aliases for tables. In the select, we define aliases for columns. Okay, so let's look at this one because it created some kind of problems. So here we need to continue this SQL command, and we need to represent a relationship and use the default way to do it. So we know that an instructor must belong to a department, and there are many instructors in the same department. So how we represent the attribute, and we are asked to write only the definition of the attribute without any referential constraint. So to make it simpler, you must not put here, and this is a command continue, so the referential constraint will be later. So here we are just looking how you define the attribute that will be used to represent the relationship. It's clear it's a foreign key and not the entire definition that will also need to include the referential constraint. So you will put the referential constraint later, probably in another question. But here you just need to think, okay, what I need to put as the attribute. And it's not always trivial what you need to put. So actually many students didn't put the right answer here. Okay, give me a chance. So indeed, what we want to put is that department ID is a name. This is the default name that we use. So it's the name of the entity. Dash the name of the attribute. Sure, in your project you're asked, and we know that the primary key is ID, so it will be department ID, the name of the entity and the attribute. Then we need to put the type, and we extract the type from the definition of department. In this case, ID is an integer. We need to use exactly the same type, so we put int as the type, and then we need to put constraints. Now we know that we'll add the for in the referential constraint, the pointing constraint, but we need to think if there are other constraints like required or unique. Now, unique, it's clearly not because I have an instructor and there's nothing about uniqueness here. I have a instructor and a department, so I know that for several instructors, I will have the same department. So it will not be, but required it is because I have here an instructor must belong to a department. So I force all instructors to belong to a department. So I cannot have an instructor without a department. What this makes, it makes the participation of instructor in the relationship mandatory. And if it's mandatory, the effect in the implementation is that I need to put here not. So that's very important, and some people forget to do that, and they lose the point. So this is the tricky part of this question. All of you got it right, which is very good. So let's move to query 21. Okay, this was also I don't know why this was tricky, but it was tricky. And let's see how tricky it is for you. Enter the beginning of the SQL command to add data to an entity with the name instructor. And I gave you what you need to complete, and then you will have some kind of parentheses and the semicolon at the end. So you need to put everything before you start to specify the data. So how you start the command. Okay, give me what you have. So press enter, even if you didn't finish everything, that's okay. Just press enter now. Okay, so yeah, so the correct beginning is here. Insert into table name, in our case, instructor, and then value, and then you put the values that we want to insert. So this is how the syntax is. So table name here is instructor value. And sure, it's not, you must not put anything else because the parentheses is data will follow. So it's just to know the syntax, what is insert into values are the keywords. Here is the name of the table in which you insert the values. And now, let's look. Okay, this also was a little bit tricky. So, true or false? 22. So a joining condition specifies that the primary key of the child table is equal with the primary key of the parent table. So when you want to represent a relationship, you need to specify a joining condition and how you specify the joining condition. So give me what you have. And indeed, this was false, because what we do in the joining condition, we use the foreign key in the child table with the primary key of the parent table. So it's false as it is formulated. You need to be careful how the link is done between the two tables. So okay, so let's look at this query. And in this question 23rd. So in this query, the query will generate rows for each employee, starting with all the columns in the department entity that correspond to the employee, and followed by all columns in the employee entity. So if it is true or false, then sure, we have select star, and we have a table clause. So give me what you have. So indeed, this is false because I don't put a joining condition. And if you don't put, so indeed, I will have first columns from the department, then columns for the employee, but I will not have only for each employee, only the corresponding department. I will have all the departments. for each employee we have all the departments. So this is a mistake. The description is correct, except that it will show me all the departments because it's a Cartesian product. If you forget the joining condition, what you get is a Cartesian product, and these will generate a lot of answers. So it's a trigger. If you see a lot of answers, when you put a SQL query and you don't have big tables, then most likely you forgot some joining conditions. So double check your joining conditions. So query 24, we have this one. The following clause is specifying a one-to-many relationship between the department code name and employee tables. And the question here is, this was right or wrong? True or false? Again, it's an easy question. You don't need to verify the syntax that is presented. It's correct for a one-to-many relationship. You may think that this relationship as works or employed or works with. Anybody? Okay, so give me what you have. Yeah, so B is true indeed. So it's what you expect to have as a definition for such a table. Okay, so let's discuss a little bit. Sure, I see that you. Let's discuss 5 more minutes and we'll close after that. So because this might be interesting. It's from the implementation assignment for module S3. And I want to clarify some things. So let's look at the queries. You have list alphabetically, which means you need an order by. So, being list alphabetically, you need an order by all the names. Now, how you order by? Sure, because it's a lexicographical order, you assume that you will put last name first, then you'll have first name and then middle name. So this will be the lexicographical order. So order by will need to have all these three. And all the names with a header name, as I ask all the names, you will need to concatenate last name, first name, and middle name. You need to put a concatenation like we did in one of the exercises and put the header name, and you see here it's lowercase, you can use lowercases, and you need to use also the sex that is provided with this header. Oh, no, these are names of the teams. So these are list alphabetically the name of the teams. So I am wrong. So in this one, no. So in this one is the name of the teams. I was wrong. Sorry for that. So what you need to do is the teams have a name. So the teams, it's easy. So you need to put the name of the teams, and in order by you put order by the name of the team. And then you need to have the type of team, boy or girls team. And The trick here is that you know that they are enrolled in the winter 2009, and I say you don't know the ID. So you must not compare, you must not look up in your database and say, okay, winter 2009, which is the ID for it, and use that ID. You need to concatenate with the season table and use for the name of the season, you need to use, and I think it's the name of the season, of course, you need to use that the season is winter 2019, and then you will identify through a join which is that season. So don't use the code of the season. You need to concatenate with the table, and you need to join with the table and use the name as the condition. Now, let's look at the next one. List all the divisions with the season. So you need to join division with season, maybe some intermediate steps. And season ending date. So you need to put also when the season will end. You need to use headers, no initials, without your initials, because you will have your initials. You must not include your initials in the headers. And you need to order by season. So you'll see for each season, which are the divisions. And here's the condition is that you have a team named Violet that played. And again, you will need a join with a team. So you have the division, you need to join also with the teams, even if you don't show information about this team, it needs to be in your join. So it will be a more complex join. You have division, season, and team included. And sure, if you have any bridge between them, you need to include that bridge as well. And then you put condition on the team. You put a condition on the team to have the name Violet. And these will just show you the divisions and seasons in which this team plays. But it will not appear any information about this team in what you show. It will appear only in the condition. Okay, for the next one, you have a club and a name for it, and a club has several teams, so you need to link the club. Again, don't use the code for this club. You need to use join with the clubs and use the name of the club as a condition. So you need to join teams with clubs, and you want to show the names of the teams and the divisions, and you have another restriction, the season. So, and again, you must not link with the code of the season, but like we did in the first one, you need to join the season with a division and use the as part of the name. So it will be a big join, and we'll have like two restrictive conditions. The club name needs to be Lions, the season name needs to be Winter 2019, and this is how you will reduce. Now, how you know that you will have answers? Because you have this data constraint. So be sure, look at the data constraint, and you see here, there are, the fourth club is named Lions. So it's exactly the club about which I asked questions. So you need to be sure that you respect the data constraints that will allow you to have answers in your queries. So if you don't have answer, most likely you haven't put the correct condition. And here for the fourth and fifth class defined, have at least two teams. So we must have at least two teams in the club Lions, because it's the fourth one. So the fourth one is Lions, and I must have at least two teams. So having two teams, I know that I will have two teams here in winter 2019. Sure, you may say, okay, I will have in another one, but you will see that here I am requiring it to have a lot of things. So most likely we'll define them in winter 2019. If not, you may get no answer here, but define some divisions in 2019 for Lions, and then you'll have them here. And so on. So if you follow the constraints, and generally that's what I recommend, be sure that you got some answers for each of the queries. Now the last one, you start with all the divisions in winter. So you have the season, the name of the season is to be winter 2019, and you take all the divisions in this season, and then you put you need to put a condition on the divisions that they are for the age of the division is 10 or younger. So you have several divisions, 10, 9, 8, and so on until 3, let's say, or how long they are, but doesn't matter. You just look at to be less or equal with 10. And then you take those divisions and leave the team names, club names, and the years of birth for the players. This is part of these are part of this information. Year of birth using nice headers. So this is how you do it. So all of these queries will require you a complex join, generally joining 3, 4 type of 3, 4, 5 tables, depending on your model. Sure, the models are quite different from one problem to another one. Here I don't discuss this particular model. Each model will sometimes have a many-to-many or a one-to-many for between such elements. So they are not identical, the models. But the idea is if you have a bridge, you need to include the bridge in the join. But all of them will require complex join. You can put the joining condition in from, or you can write joining condition in the where clause. You need to have the joining conditions for all the tables. And also you need to be sure that you add the additional condition. And like here, to be winter 2019 season. So you need to have the name of the season to be winter 2019, depending on your representation. So this will depend on how you represent winter 2019, which may be different from one implementation to another, but you need to be clear to do this comparison. Or to use violet theme here. So be sure that you add all these specific restrictions to your query. And what I recommend after you write the query, go back to this specification and double check that your query satisfies the specification. Okay, so yeah, so what I mean that you must not use a season ID is that you need to compare some attributes with winter and 2019. So depending, again, this depends how you represent each season and how your representation is required, which varies from question to question, but be sure that you do that. And sure, the questions are different to other representations. So not everybody has these questions, but it's the same idea in all of the questions, several joins and additional conditions. And double check that you put all of them. Okay, so we can stop now. And if there are no more questions, I will answer by email any other additional question.